Imagine a love so fierce it defies death itself, a queen who clutched her husband's decaying form through stormy nights, whispering secrets to a man who could no longer reply. If tales of passion twisted into obsession grip you like a shadow in the moonlight, then lean in close. Share this story with a friend who craves the dark underbelly of history, and subscribe for more chilling royal sagas that will haunt your dreams. Today, we unravel the enigma of the woman they called Juana la Loca, the queen who slept beside her mummified husband, turning grief into a Gothic legend that echoes through the ages. In the sun-baked city of Toledo, on November 6, 1479, a girl entered the world under the watchful eyes of Spain's most formidable monarchs, Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile. The third of their 5 children, Juana in her native tongue, was no pampered princess from the start. Fair-skinned with piercing blue eyes and hair that danced between strawberry blonde and fiery auburn, she was a restless infant, her cries piercing the palace halls like omens of storms to come. As she grew, that fire tempered into a sharp intellect. Clever and solitary, Juana shunned the clamor of court life, burying herself in books. She mastered Castilian, Catalan, Galician Portuguese, French, and even Latin, her love for reading a quiet rebellion against the expectations heaped upon her. She danced with grace, her fingers flying across the clavichord keys, but moods swung like pendulums, solitude one day, fierce tempers the next. Juana was never meant for the throne. Her parents, the Catholic monarchs who had united Spain through conquest and cunning, groomed her for one purpose: a political marriage to bind empires. Her older brother, Juan, was the golden heir. Her sisters, Isabella and Maria, were pawns in alliances. But fate, that cruel puppeteer, had other plans. In 1497, Juan died at just 19, mere months after his wedding, his pregnant bride miscarrying their child in grief. Then, in 1498, sister Isabella followed, dead from complications after birthing a son, Miguel de Paz, who himself succumbed to illness in 1500 at age 2. Suddenly, the moody third daughter was thrust into the spotlight, heiress to Castile, Leon, and, through her parents, Aragon itself. In 1502, at 23, she swore the oath as Princess of Asturias, the title marking her as Spain's future queen. But whispers of instability already shadowed her. During a visit to her parents that year, Juana shattered. Overwhelmed by the weight of destiny, she wept uncontrollably, hurled herself against stone walls until her body bruised, and babbled incoherently, refusing food or rest. Her mother, the iron-willed Isabella, locked her in the grim castle La Mota at Medina del Campo, where Juana paced like a caged panther, her mind fracturing under the strain. Yet even in her turmoil, love or obsession awaited. At 16, Juana had been shipped to Flanders for a union that would forge the Habsburg Empire. On October 20, 1496, in the chilly town of Lya, she wed Philip the Handsome, Duke of Burgundy and son of Holy Roman Emperor Maximilian I. Tall, golden-haired, with eyes like summer skies. Philip was a vision of chivalric perfection. Their first meeting ignited something primal in Juana. Legend claims she declared, "I have never seen a more handsome man," and from that moment, she was his body, soul, and soon, to her ruin, every jealous fiber. The marriage was a whirlwind of passion. Juana, raised in the devout austerity of Spanish courts, embraced the sensual freedoms of Burgundian life with abandon. They consummated their union mere hours after the vows, and over the next decade, 6 children blessed their bed: Eleanor, 1498, the future Charles V, 1500, Isabella, 1501, Ferdinand, 1503, Mary, 1505, and Catherine, 1507. Charles would one day rule half the known world as Holy Roman Emperor, Ferdinand, the vast Habsburg domains, Catherine, the ill-fated Queen of Portugal, and the others, queens and duchesses who wove Europe's dynasties tighter. But Philip's beauty masked a wandering heart. While Juana burned with fidelity, he chased mistresses through Flemish courts, his infidelities as public as a tournament joust. Jealousy clawed at her, fits of rage where she'd lock him in their chambers, or once, in a frenzy, attack a rumored lover with scissors, slashing the woman's hair and face in a spray of blood. Desperate, Joanna turned to love potions brewed by court alchemists, herbs and incantations that smacked of witchcraft in the Inquisition-haunted Spain of her birth. Philip, humiliated, abandoned her repeatedly, once fleeing to Flanders for months, leaving her to pace empty halls, whispering his name like a prayer. Isabella forbade her daughter from chasing him, but Joanna's pleas echoed through letters. He is my son, my heir, without him, I wither. Historians now murmur of bipolar swings, perhaps manic depression or schizophrenia, exacerbated by isolation and betrayal. But in the 16th century, such madness was a convenient label for a woman who dared feel too deeply. Isabella's death on November 26, 1504, from cancer, shattered the fragile peace. At 25, Joanna inherited Castile, a realm fresh from the Reconquista's triumphs, its coffers swollen with New World gold. But Philip saw opportunity, not partnership. He rushed to Spain with their retinue, sidelining Joanna as the mad to claim the regency. Ferdinand, ever the schemer, countered by invading with troops, forcing a humiliating treaty that stripped Philip of power but left Joanna a figurehead. Philip's courtiers mocked her Spanish hysterics, while Ferdinand whispered of her unfitness, citing her refusal to change from widow's weeds or eat without Philip's coaxing. Then, on September 25, 1506, in Burgos, Philip fell. A sudden fever, perhaps typhoid or poison, rumors swirled, claimed him in 5 agonizing days. He was 28, in the prime of betrayal. Joanna, 7 months pregnant with Catherine, collapsed at his bedside, her screams tearing through the palace like a banshee's wail. She refused to let physicians near the body, ordering it washed in holy water and embalmed with herbs to preserve his beauty. But preservation turned to possession. When priests urged burial in Granada, per Philip's wishes, the Moorish jewel he'd coveted, Joanna demurred. He shall not lie in foreign soil, she decreed, her voice a hollow echo. What followed was a procession from nightmare. For 8 months, from October 1506 to June 1507, Joanna's cortege snaked across Castile's mud-choked roads, the lead wagon a black-draped hearse bearing Philip's lead coffin, sealed with 3 locks she alone held the keys to. Torquemada, Palencia, Sahagun, they halted at monasteries, but Joanna dined beside the casket, her fork tapping its lid as if expecting replies. At night, in torchlit inns, she ordered the coffin placed in her chamber, its chill weight at the foot of her bed. Servants whispered of opened lids, Joanna, veiled in black, stroking his mummified face, kissing his cold feet, murmuring endearments to the leathery husk. He is not dead, she'd hiss to doubters, merely sleeping. See how he breathes. Winter storms battered the convoy, but Joanna pressed on, convinced Philip's spirit demanded Granada. Plague forced detours. In one village, she flung open the coffin to prove his flesh untainted, the stench driving nobles retching into the night. Ferdinand, horrified, dispatched envoys to halt her, partly from paternal dread, partly to seize control. By spring, exhausted and unraveling, Joanna relented. The body was interred temporarily at the Royal Chapel in Granada, but not before she exhumed it once more, arranging it in her Tordesillas cell so his window overlooked hers, a spectral sentinel. Ferdinand's machinations sealed her fate. Declaring her incapable in 1507, he confined Joanna to the convent of Santa Clara in Tordesillas, a fortress of stone and silence overlooking the misty Douro River. Her ladies were dismissed, replaced by Ferdinand's spies, mirrors shattered, lest vanity distract her vigil. She wore unrelieved black for decades, her hair a wild tangle, nibbling scraps only when bribed with tales of Philip. In 1516, Ferdinand died, poisoned by gout, or so courtiers gossiped, and her son Charles, just 16, inherited the throne. He visited once, tearfully, but upheld the confinement, fearing her instability would fracture the empire. Joanna plotted in whispers a failed uprising in 1520, bribing guards for escape, but iron bars and isolation crushed her. Charles, guilt-ridden, allowed luxuries, books, a clavichord, even a menagerie of monkeys to mimic her moods. Yet she refused burial rites for Philip until 1525, when Charles forced it in Granada, beside Isabella and Ferdinand. Joanna raged, clawing at walls, her mind a labyrinth of loss. For 46 more years, she lingered a ghost in widows' weeds, outliving children, grandchildren, and the Renaissance itself. On Good Friday, April 12, 1555, at 75, she slipped away in her cell, starved by refusal, her final words a sigh, "Philip, my love." Buried beside him at last in Granada's royal chapel, her tomb bears a chilling epitaph. Here lies the most unhappy queen of Spain. Was Juana truly mad, or a victim of patriarchal chains? Modern eyes see bipolar disorder in her swings, schizophrenia in her visions, perhaps triggered by porphyria, a royal curse that felled George III centuries later. Others argue fabrication. Ferdinand and Charles, power-hungry, branded her Loca to rule unchallenged, her madness a smear to justify theft of her crown. Philip's affairs. A catalyst for righteous fury, not delusion. Her courtage. Not grief's folly, but a queen asserting sovereignty over her king's remains, defying a world that deemed women unfit to lead. Juana's legacy endures in art and infamy. Francisco Pradilla's 1877 canvas captures her vigil, eyes hollow with eternal watch. Operas and novels recast her as tragic heroine, not cautionary tale. She mothered emperors, yet history remembers the coffin, not the crown, a poignant reminder that love, unchecked, can mummify the soul.